Hi guys, Raynal here. Today we'll be talking about the Chaos Odin combination of VC and Esper. It is a top tier, both for the Vision card and the Esper. The Vision card is tailored towards physical attackers of the Ice and Water element because it is a dual element Vision card, the first one we're getting. And then the Esper is tailored towards evasion, and it is pretty much the best Esper for evasion across the board. So this makes it something that players might really want, and I'm sure players that do get it will play it extensively because it's a really good Esper as well. The thing is, just like Bahamut previously, it is a VC that is half rate. It's a cost 90, and in JP, they had to do non-conventional pity going to, I think, 40,000, just like we get for units. So it is extremely expensive compared to other Vision cards. So today we'll explore the stats, what it does, what are the alternatives, and whether it's worth it for your account or not. For starters, let me say I will be skipping this banner personally. I find that there's quite often banners where you get VCs that are guaranteed, or you can reroll a couple times your pulls and you will eventually get it, and I am willing to wait before I build this. I will, however, be doing the daily shard summons if I can, and getting a bunch of shards in the shop to get ready so that when I pull it, I have it maxed quickly. So that's the compromise I'm willing to make. And my idea is, since Bahamut was released a little over a year ago, I've pulled him, I think, 5 times overall. So I am willing to wait 2-3 months until I have a chance, a good banner, and then I naturally pull it. Because the 40,000 Viz right now would be a huge investment, right before a potential global exclusive, right before Persona, and while I'm still spending to try to get shards for Ibarra, Yor Zazan, and then the Final Fantasy VI collaboration. So for me, personally, it's not worth the Viz right now. So let's take a look at the Vision card. First of all, this is, as I was saying, a dual element VC. The stats on the Vision card are kind of insane. Over 400 HP, 30 AP, 180 luck, which is very high, and then 4 points of spirit and 3 agility. It is stacked. It's going to be the best for the raw stats compared to anything else, really, on your physical attacker. Then the individual abilities for both water and ice units are going to be Man-Eater up 10, which is the same as the current Odin VC we have, but also 5% HP, so it's already very strong. And then ice units get a global exclusive buff of single target resistance and ice attack up. We don't know the values just yet, so just know that it's going to be even better for ice units, and there's a ton of good ice physical attackers. I especially like the single target resistance part because since you also have single target resistance in the party ability, these two are going to stack, and your unit will be quite resistant to single target attacks for the future, which is most of what Starlit Ilena does, so that's pretty fun to have. Then the party ability is 50% attack, which is really good. It's comparable with Ifrit, and it is top tier. Then 15% HP makes it a really good Vision card to have as a secondary Vision card as well. Now I think with all the stats this has, you're quite likely to run it as a primary VC over secondary, but it is good in either position. And then finally 10 single target resistance, which is another really good stat to have. So before we go deeper, as a secondary VC, the stats of this are actually quite good. In the individual slots, you would get 4.5 Man-Eater up and 3.75 HP, and then whatever ice attack and single target resistance for ice units you get, because we don't know the values yet. And then the party buff is still 23% attack, 11.25% HP, and 2 single target resistance. Now, the sub-VC numbers we have are the same that were on JP when they released the sub-VC system, and a short while afterwards they had an update where the numbers were more rounded out and generally higher. So when we get that update, these values for attack and HP are going to be slightly better, and overall we'll get more stats out of secondary VCs, but that is the case across the board, so I don't think it's going to influence our decision making too much. Overall though, what makes this a really good secondary VC is the fact that it has quite a bit of HP, and HP scales at 75%, so it's a really good scaling. And on top of that, you get a 50% attack, which I try to run as a secondary VC. I try to either get the Astrologer VC or Ifrit in pretty much all my physical teams, because it's a pretty massive boost to damage. So it is going to be a good VC for those teams, pretty much no matter what, as long as you're using a physical attacker. Ice and Water are going to use this, I think, for the foreseeable future. So what would this look like in a ice team? I've had a sample team. I used 2 physical attackers, 1 magic attacker, because I feel like that's the most common ice setup. naturally you could switch things around, but I feel like your top 3 cards for the primary slots are going to be Chaos Odin, then the Laswell Mystical Ice Vision card, because it has a ton of attack in the individual slot, and then on top of that, increased Maneater on physical attacks, and it's just stacked with a lot of good stats. And then the HP and Ice attack up from Freezus are hard to beat, but Freezus is also a fantastic secondary card because the HP has such a good scaling as a secondary VC. And then in the secondary slots, I would run the other Ice 50% attack vision card, which is Fenrir. And yes, you can stack both of these if you have one in primary and one in secondary. Probably Mask of Deceit if I'm running one of Victora or Aranea, and then something to increase my agility even further. So I was looking at all the possible Ice cards, and I think you'll always want Chaos Odin as a primary, as it is slightly better than even the other strongest Ice Vision cards like Laswell's or Freezus. So it's definitely up there in the top tier Ice Vision cards, and has good value just for this. Then for a water team, I actually think there's a lot of good options, and I'm not convinced I would always be running Chaos Odin in primary because of how many good options there are. My main question in regards to an Alstoria team, for example, is do I want Chaos Odin in primary, or do I want the Lara Croft VC in primary? And you might be thinking, this guy's got a guaranteed hit, why would you want to run a lockup VC just to increase his hit rate? And my reasoning behind this is, yes, he does have a guaranteed hit, and it's a super strong move, but he also has a barrier breaker, and a lot of other good moves in his kit that he wants to use. And if you're building yourself with enough accuracy, then he's always going to do more damage comparatively, because he doesn't have to use his guaranteed hit that doesn't have all the other components of his other attacks. So I would see myself running perhaps tune-up time on Alstoria, and then the Lara Croft VC on your other physical attacker on your team. But it's also a really good possible scenario to have Chaos Odin on Alstoria, and then build around this to have a powerful team. I think Water with the sub-VC system got a pretty massive boost. Suteki Dane giving a lot of HP makes it a fantastic secondary card that also increases slash attack. We have Astrologer that increases attack, acquired AP up, which has really good scaling with secondary VCs, and then magic resistance for those units. So there are a lot of good teams you could run, and if you don't care about making Celeste hit hard, you can do something like what I've put on screen. Give her a primary vision card that increases her tankiness and her magic a little bit, and then go for something that increases the damage of your other guys as a secondary VC, since you don't really care about her hitting. She just has to survive for a while, and the others have to be the ones with the damage. Now, let's take a look at the Esper that really is tailored differently. It's all about evasion. If we look at the stats, it doesn't really tell us much about the Esper. He does not have an element, just like normal Odin, so no elemental weaknesses or strengths related to this Esper. He's got average stats across the board, I would say. 1240 HP is in the high-ish end. 100 attack is okay, it's not the top, but it's not super low. And 18 agility is good, but it's not as high as normal Odin that has 20. So really average stats across the board. The resistance to poison is not the most impactful of resistances in my opinion. And then his ability is a 200 mod attack that has 100% chance and can poison your enemies. So it's not like it imperils your element or has a massive impact like causing petrify status effects like some other Espers we've seen. So on this end, the Esper isn't anything too special. But when we start looking at the nodes, that's where it becomes a little bit insane. So Chaos Odin has, just like normal Odin, a 25 Maneater nodes. So he is built for PvP. He will give your units a lot of damage no matter the attack type they use. And that's really the power of Maneater, is you can use missile attacks, slash attacks, magic attacks, it doesn't matter. As long as you're hitting a human, you're getting that damage boost. So this is really, really good. He's got a little bit of AP as well that could be relevant, especially for raids or other content where you don't want to waste any turn buffing if you can avoid it. And then you can go for some slash attack or an increase in your poison rate, which is very unique. It's one of those very rare Espers that increase your chance of landing status effects on the enemy team, which is really unique, but not necessarily that game-changing. But the defensive end, you get 22 evasion, 15 magic resist, and 15 missile resistance, and then a bit of critical evasion. So it's really loaded with a lot of things. And what makes this a cut above the other evasion options is The other evasion options are Tetrasulfide, that's really tailored toward wind, then the Chimera, that's really tailored towards dark evasion, and then Glacial, that isn't really designed for damage either. This is the first Esper that has a versatile damage up for everyone because it's Maneater and still has the evasion nodes, and that combination makes it best in slot for evasion teams no matter what. Also, there aren't that many evasion Espers available in the game, so in this slide I've got them, but we only had 3 so far. This is a 4th one. If you're going to run PvP, it now gives you a little bit more variance that you can switch around, and naturally that cost 40 Chaos Odin is going to be superior to cost 30 Glacial or cost 30 Chimera in a lot of scenarios, so it's just upping your evasion game a little bit. Still, I found it interesting to put these on screen because if you don't have the budget for Chaos Odin, a lot of people stop at the fact that there's only 2 Espers with a lot of evasion up, right? They look at Tetrasulfide and Chimera and stop there. But Glacial is another really good alternative that has a lot of luck up nodes. So if you're running Glacial on a unit like Luck or Starlit Elena or to be that has really high luck innately, this actually provides you with a very significant amount of evasion, and you can use that as a 3rd evasion Esper if you need to. So there is already 3 options. You don't need Chaos Odin necessarily. It will just make your team a bit stronger. With all that said, I've already said that I was going to be skipping it. It's permanent pool. I am comfortable with missing it for a 2, 3, 4 months if I have to, and then naturally pulling it at some point. Maybe you'll see me talk in a year and say that I regret this because I've never actually pulled it. It's the laws of Gacha. We don't control what happens. But for me, an investment of a ton of Viz for a vision card like this one at the current time is just not worth it. So if you're going to be pulling for him, I would say consider what else you want in the near future. Consider how much you have and make sure you don't break the bank for this, because while an Esper and vision card like this will make everything you have stronger, what it doesn't do is change the way the game is played. You're going to slap him on your team and you'll enjoy a better performance, but it's not going to be new mechanics that you bring in via another unit or just something entirely different from what you already have, right? It just makes what you currently have stronger. So evaluate the impact on your team and on the way you like to compete in the game, and then you can decide whether that's going to be impactful enough to be worth your Viz. With that said, I feel like I've been talking for a bit too long. Thank you for watching, and I will be back soon with another video. Bye.